Hello, you all. Welcome back to core session number 3. Communication is key. Today, we'll be talking about different tenets and facets of communication that you will likely encounter during your time here at the University of Washington. And so, this is our overall list. We'll go over how to communicate with professors. And so, that looks like emailing, and then how to communicate with departments and different colleges as well. In addition, in this presentation, we'll have a full list of the most important campus office contacts that will be relevant to your stay here at the university, in addition to fundamental health, safety, and emergency contacts. So when we get to those slides, be sure to save them for your own reference. In addition, at the very end, we'll talk about very important academic resources that are available to you simply because you pay UW tuition. And so they are powerful, powerful resources that will help you greatly in your time here at the UW. To start us off, let's talk about emailing professors. Overall, your initiative is one of the most powerful ingredients to create a good Husky experience. To that end, the ability to communicate, the ability to reach out and seek out new opportunities for yourself and create opportunities for yourself is a very powerful and valuable skill to have. In that, a lot of that looks like emailing. If you don't know a professor or you haven't really talked about it in person with the professor, emailing a professor is your very first mode of reaching out. And so, how you email and the template, which we'll go over, how you email and the different templates of what to say, in what order to say them, is very, very important. Okay. We'll go over several different scenarios. The first of our scenarios is how to request an ad code. And so this is a fundamental University of Washington policy. Starting the 8th calendar day of every single quarter. So that's the start of the second week of the quarter. During the first week of the quarter, you can add and drop classes unrestricted. And then starting the second week, however, if you want to add a class, you will need an add code. It's a 5-digit long code that you'll need to enter into the SLN website in addition to your course SLN in order to successfully register for that course. Now the question is, how do you get that? How do you get that code? Uh, Unfortunately, the answer is it depends. And so it really depends on which course you're trying to register for. For some courses, it'll give you a direct contact in the description of the course in my plan. For instance, for this course, it says to contact UW at uw.edu if you want an ad code for this looks like some kind of English composition course, right? But sometimes the course description will not actually include how to go about getting an ad code. And if they don't include that piece of information, it could be to email the professor. It could be to reach out to the department advisor. It could be that there's no ad codes available for the class. It could be all of the above. And so to find out, you can either look at the description, you can reach out to the professor, or you can contact the department specifically. And so, for instance, if it's an English class you're interested in, on the English department webpage, perhaps they'll have more information about how ad codes in their specific department works. In addition, if you do have the professor name, not all courses will have the name of the professor. But if the professor's name is listed next to the course, you can find your professor's email or contact information by searching their name on Google. Simply type UW professor's name, and by and large, that professor's name and contact information will pop up. And you can email them from there. Then the next question becomes what to write in that email. Say you're asking for an ad code, right? An ad code is essentially the professor's permission to add you to the class, even though a full week of classes has already passed. And so essentially, you're asking them for a favor. From their perspective, you might be a student that, perhaps already missed that week of class, but they want to give you permission, or you want them to give you permission to join that class anyway. So how do we go about writing this email to ask your professor for that favor? Well, this is a sample template that we've created. And so there are many, many different parts. And so first, be sure to send this email from your UW email. If the professors receive an email from an @gmail.com, perhaps they won't be as motivated to respond to it because then they're not entirely sure that it's actually coming from a UW student. It could be coming from some external source or it could be some kind of spam. But once they see it's from an at uw.edu, they are absolutely confident that this email will be UW related. Then, um, okay, and then you can include your professor's email. And so you can either Google that or it's available right on the course description under My Plan, so on and so forth. And then if there are other parties involved, generally there won't be. For ad codes, at least, generally there won't be. But say you want to CC the office of the registrar for some reason, or the specific advising staff from that department, you would add that email here. Then onto your subject line. So in the subject line, you want to be as clear and concise as possible about what you're asking for. In this case, this student looks to be asking for an ad code for section AE of Biology 200. And so being as specific as possible helps your professor respond to the email in a timely manner. In addition, especially if the course is already progressing, saying that you need an ad code for the course automatically triggers in your professor's head, hey, this is a time-sensitive issue. For every day that I don't respond to this student's email, the student is missing courses or missing lectures that can be very important to the class. And so having a clear subject line is very, very important and helps your professor adequately and time and quickly respond to your concern. Next, we want to approach this entire matter in a very respectful way. And so address your professor as dear professor, whatever their last name is. That's just a good rule of thumb. Especially if you don't know the professor, definitely don't refer to them by their first name because you're not that close yet. So professor, last name is just a very good rule of thumb to go by. And then you can add whatever fluffy, happy thing. Generally, this is of course up to your own discretion, but generally you can add some amount of happy fluff at the very beginning, intending to wish the professor well. It helps the overall energy of the email go more smoothly. And then from there, you dive into the specifics of what you're asking for. And so here, you can almost think of it, there's a little bit of convincing to do. There can be a lot of students reaching out to them to be added to this class, but you want to make yourself stand out a little bit and also show why this class that you're trying to get into is very, very important for you. And so this student clearly states that they are a pre-science major with the goal of becoming a biologist, and they're writing this email in order to seek an ad code for this specific section. And they make it clear that this is the only section that doesn't conflict with their schedule. And so overall, they express who they are, they introduce themselves to the professor, and express why this course is so important to them, their motivations behind reaching out to the professor for this course. And you can include this paragraph as well, which in this case is saying that if you add me to this course, I will work very hard to achieve all of the success metrics. I will work very hard to study all the material. I will be a passionate student. I will be involved in the class. Essentially, the kind of student the professor wants to have in their class, right? And so you want to maximize your chances, essentially. And of course, because essentially you are asking a favor of the professor, you are asking the professor to take an extra little chunk of time out of their day to give you access to their course and invite you into their class. And so definitely express gratitude in that manner. And of course, at the very end, sign off with sincerely, best regards, so on and so forth. This one is flexible, but these are the best ones to usually go for. And then finally, also for sure include your student ID because that allows professors to, one, know you are for sure a UW student, but if they have the ability to look you up in the system as well. Okay, moving on to our second scenario. UW, especially, is very well ranked in global rankings right now. And much of that is because our research is very, very powerful. We are an immensely influential research institution. And so, if this is part of your Husky experience that you would like to include, definitely research is something that can be a valuable opportunity for you to experience as an undergraduate student. And so reaching out for that opportunity, though, requires effort on your part. It doesn't happen by accident, right? And so a lot of that reaching out looks like email. And so we're going to go over a template of what reaching out for a research opportunity also looks like. And so there's two primary steps. The first step, of course, is to send them an email expressing who you are and the contact information that you would like for them to reach out back to you for. And then also in your emails, you include all of these different bullets. as with the ad code email, again, the professor doesn't know you, so you want to introduce yourself to the professor. And then the professor could potentially get many different students asking them for a very limited number of opportunities in their lab. Taking from a professor's standpoint, taking on a new student can be quite a lot of effort in the sense that they have to train the student, they have to walk them through, they have to teach them the ways of the lab, so on and so forth. So you're asking the professor for this opportunity. And so on one hand, you want to express your desire and interest and motivation for it. On the other hand, you should also express why you're qualified for this position or what experiences you come into the position with and what qualities you bring to the table that can add to your professor's lab overall and help them along their research pursuits. So this is a very rough sample template. And again, it follows the same general principles that we just talked about. And so in the first section, again, the professor doesn't know you. So you want to introduce yourself. You can introduce yourself saying what year you are, what you're studying currently, and then probably the most interesting piece of information to a professor is especially professors are usually very well versed in their respective disciplines and also are familiar with the coursework that students can take that would make them familiar or bring them up to speed with the work and knowledge needed to perform in that lab. And so saying the courses that you've taken in that subject area that you want to do research for, as well as perhaps if you did well, especially how well you did in those courses, can help the professor gauge just how strong a candidate you are. In addition, if you have other related experience, this is a great place to put them as well. If the professor realizes, hey, this student already has some experience under their belt, then I don't have to do as much training. I can bring the student on and they can catch up much faster compared to another student who might not have that experience. And so, especially if you have a strong grades in coursework related to your field of research that you're trying to get into, if you have related experience, that is always a plus. And so be sure to mention that to make yourself as strong a candidate as possible. And then, of course, in addition to your qualifications, your motivations are also very important. Why do you want to be in this lab? What are your future goals? And especially if they align with your professor's overall research, that can be a great match overall. And so in the next section, so after you introduce yourself, in order to make yourself stand out even more, it's a good rule of thumb to show interest in your professor's work, to show your commitment. And how do you do that before even joining the lab? Well, generally, all the professors will have their work available to the public or online for you to be able to read. And so mentioning that you've actually gone out of your way and taken the effort to try to digest one of your professor's papers can be a wonderful way to show your commitment and effort to the field of research, even before getting into the lab. And so that in itself, that effort and that ability and that motivation to go out and do your own research and put in your own time and effort, even though you're not officially in the lab yet, can be a great way to make you stand out among a competitive field of candidates. And then finally, in the last section, professors are busy too. They are not only teaching, they are also doing research, they are mentoring students, so on and so forth. And so recognize that their time is valuable. And so then the final step, after you've proven, you introduce yourself, you've shown your interest in the overall field of research, and now comes your ask, right? What are you asking for? And when you make that ask, when you make that request of your professor, be as polite as possible. And so here, the general template goes, we want to try to set up a time to meet, right? But keep in mind, since they're very busy people, to give them a wide range of availability, perhaps even offer to go to their office hours, because that's a time where for sure they'll be there to discuss any of the above matters. And overall, of course, at the end, express gratitude for them in hopes that they will consider your application, in hopes that they will consider your request to be added and considered for this opportunity. And again, of course, include your student ID and email them from your UW email. All of the above tips that we mentioned in the ad code email. But yeah, this is a rough template for how to request a research position. Again, if research is something that you're interested in, UW is a wonderful research institution. And so this is an opportunity that you can most definitely take advantage of. provided that you put in the effort to seek out these opportunities. And there are many different types of emails that you might potentially write to your professor over the course of your time here at the UW. That can look like, hey, if you're going to miss a class, how do you make up for that credit? Or if there's a certain time conflict between classes, or you need certain accommodations for time conflicts or other needs, so on and so forth. All of the above can be expressed through written communication with your professor. And so here in this link down here, we have several different sample emails. And so on your time, be sure to look through those. And so you have those templates and a rough idea of how to write these emails in mind for when the time comes that you will need to write an email to a professor to better advance your cause. Overall, for rule of thumbs, uh, be clear and concise and professional in your communication. Overall, be as clear as possible. Get straight to the point. Be as clear as possible about what exactly you're asking from the professor and try to add more information to help them better understand your overall case. And then, especially if you're asking to check for a question that might be already on the syllabus, be sure to review the course syllabus before asking that question. In previous course session, we talked about a course syllabi. And generally, professors love it when students have read the syllabus already and then have a question about a piece of information that might not be directly on the syllabus and ask for clarification, because then the student has already put in effort and then has taken the additional step to reach out for clarification. And so that just puts you in better light in the eyes of your professor. And then timeliness is also very important. If there's an issue about an upcoming assignment or an upcoming exam, if you email the professor day of, more than likely they will not grant you your request, whatever your request you're asking for, whether it's an extension or other like accommodations. But if you communicate early, say it's something that you know is coming up, say 2 weeks in advance, or you know you will have a time conflict somewhere down the line, the earlier you communicate, the better. And then also be reasonable about how fast your professors will get back to you. Generally, a few business days is the expectation. They are also busy people, and especially if they're teaching the intro sequence classes for freshmen, they could have hundreds upon hundreds of students, and so do set reasonable expectations for their response times. Okay. Moving on, let's talk about contacting departments and colleges, specifically in the context of contacting advising staff. And so many of you might not yet be in a specific major or college, but that does not mean that you can't already start reaching out to departments, especially if you want to get into a specific major, say you're pre-sciences and you already have a specific major in mind, reaching out to a department advisor can be very helpful. But in the next slide, we will break down when you want to reach out to a general academic advisor and when you want to reach out to a specific departmental advisor. And so a general academic advisor provides you, as the name suggests, general advice about your academics. And so if you're interested in how to plan for your 4 years, the different requirements of the university, if you have questions about course selection, university policy, so on and so forth, if you just want more guidance about what path you want to take in the university itself, your general advisor can be a great source of information. On the other hand, for your departmental academic advisor, if you already know that there's a specific specialization that you want to go into, or you have a lot of interest in a specific major, then you can go to their departmental advisors. Departmental advisors are more immediately familiar compared to general advisors with the courses in their respective departments. They know the ad code situation with any coursework that you might want to take. They know what the overall 4 year progression looks like. They know what happens even after those 4 years of college, what happens in the field, what happens in industry, so on and so forth. And so, if you're interested in a specific discipline and you come into the university with a specific major in mind already, be sure to check out the departmental advisors. They are a wonderful, wonderful source of information. In addition, meeting with a department specific advisor can help your chances of getting into that major because depending on how much information they're able to give you. They can give you specific tips as to what courses to take if you want to get into this major, how to write your application, the different resources that are available to you if you want to refine your application and make yourself a more competitive candidate. And so it's a wonderful, wonderful resource overall. And again, you don't have to be in that major in order to reach out to a departmental academic advisor. If you're unsure about where to find your general academic advisor, you can find them in your My UW actually. In your academics tab, there will be a tab for you that will list your academic advisor as well as their contact information. Otherwise, you can follow this link as well. Who is your assigned advisor? It's the same link as this one down here, schedule an advising appointment. And that form, it'll take you to a web page, and there will be a button on that page that'll take you to a form that'll tell you exactly who your academic advisor is, as well as their contact information. As for departmental advising contacts, you can Google the specific major or discipline that you're interested in, and the contact information for each department will pop up on their webpage. Otherwise, there's also a general link here that we've provided. You can browse the overall list and find the specific major you're interested in on that page. Next up, let's talk about the different campus administrative contacts that you'll come into contact with during your time here at the university. Feel free to screenshot this or save this slide if you'd like, but these are some of the offices that are especially most pertinent to the international student experience. First up, we have international admissions. So during this summer specifically, if you have any questions about your I-20, your visa, or sending transcripts or test scores from high school overall, or especially your transcripts to the University of Washington, all of that information, all of that communications goes through international admissions. This is their phone number and their contact information. Here I'm going to skip ahead and talk about ISS right now. And there's a clear divide essentially. So for international students, how the process is set up at the University of Washington is that up until throughout the admission process and throughout the first summer before you come to Seattle, all of your visa stuff and all of your I-20 legal documentation, so on, transcripts, so on and so forth, all of that is handled by international admissions. But come the end of August, each international student will receive a communication from International Student Services. It'll be called the International Student ISS Newsletter, something to that effect. And that will be ISS introducing themselves to each international student. And from there, at the end of August, international admissions will no longer be your point of contact for anything I-20, visa, so on and so forth. ISS will become your point of contact for the duration of your university experience and beyond. So keep that in mind. When it comes to August, be sure to look out for an email from UW ISS because they will become your go-to for all things immigration, all things visa, all things I-20 for your 4 years and for OPT, CPT, so on and so for job opportunities, even after you graduate from the university. Okay, going back to the list right here, we also have FYP, first year programs on here. During the summer, if you accidentally miss your ANO, or if you have questions about your ANO session, if you have questions about FIGs, if you have questions about dog days, FYP, first year programs, is a wonderful department on campus that specializes in the first year student experience. And so they would be absolutely the people to reach out to. For HFS, if you have any of housing questions, any questions about the dorms, any questions about the dining account, any questions about your group assignments, any questions about your priority, about roommate situation, so on and so forth, all of that can be through hfs@uw.edu. And then you can also visit them at Willow Desk and Lander Desk. And there's also staff there that can help you with any of your above questions. If you're coming from abroad, the immunization office, the immunization verification program is also an important office. They are one of the offices that are able to give you a registration hold so that you won't even be registered for classes if you don't complete the assignments they give to you. And it seems a little steep at first, but it's a necessary move in order to make sure that each student coming to the university is fully vaccinated against contagious diseases in order to safeguard the overall public health of the students here at the university. And so if there's any snags or anything that goes wrong with your immunization record, immunity@uw.edu is the contact to reach out to. And this is their phone number. And then during your time here at the UW, if anything, if you have any questions about your tuition, tuition deadlines, tuition extensions, so on and so forth, Student Fiscal Services, SFS, with fiscal meaning money, this is their email address. And they are all things money, all things tuition. And so if you have any questions, be sure to reach out to them. We went over ISS. And then finally, for all things course registration, whether you want to add, whether you want to drop a course, whether you're interested in knowing more about policy, sending transcripts, how to get your diploma, so on and so forth. All of that information goes through the Office of the University Registrar, and this is their email as well. And they're located in Schmitz Hall 260, which is right next to us on the Circle office. And so if you're interested or you want to reach out to someone in person to help you with your registration concerns, you can always visit the second floor of Schmitz Hall. And then we saved an entire slide for ourselves. But this is our circle contact. If you've been through going to our core sessions and our Husky welcome, so on and so forth, you've probably seen this information before. But just to hammer home, you can always reach us for any of the above concerns. Say you or you're interested in engagement opportunities or fun events that the Circle office holds, or you have specific questions about your international student experience. We're available through RCG groups, but you can also email at us at uwcircle@uw.edu. If you want to, you can also call us on our line, or you can visit us in person at Schmitz Hall 250. Overall, we highly recommend that people write emails for all concerns. Whether you have questions about registration, whether you have questions about immunization, whether you have questions about your I-20, so on and so forth, we strongly recommend that you write an email for everything because having that written chain of communication is really beneficial. And let me explain why. If you have that written chain of communication, if you have clear documentation for what problems you have or what issue you're trying to resolve, even if someone else from that office takes over your case, they can very quickly bring themselves up to speed for what is happening, especially if you reach out to us for help. Since we're a generalized international student support office, if you have that written chain of communication from another office, say you have some issue with your I-20 and you're working with ISS and there's some hurdles that you're trying to go through or you're not entirely sure how to proceed and you come to us for help, we can definitely help you with that. But if you have that written chain of communication, it makes our job so much easier to be able to provide you with that assistance. And so we strongly recommend that regardless of what concern, you write that email first and foremost in order to have that written chain of communication. If your issue is very urgent, in addition to writing that email, you can also show up in person to that office if they have an office to show up to. And so you can show up in person and say something to the effect of, hey, I know I already put an email request into the system for this issue, but since it's an urgent issue, I also showed up in person to see if there's anything you can do for me or to learn more about my options. And so if it's an urgent matter, you can do both. You should write your email and then you can also show up in person. So you have that written chain of communication that can allow essentially anyone from that department or us also to help you with that issue. And also you can show up in person to to try to resolve that issue in a faster manner. And again, always include your student ID, especially for issues related to ISS, immigration, so on and so forth. Having your student ID in that piece of communication helps staff at ISS or whichever department you're reaching out to much easier. It makes their life much easier to access your record and help you with your case. Okay. Moving on from administrative contacts, now let's talk about health and safety contacts. And so, while you come to the university for an academic experience to get your degree at the end of the day, but in that process, your health and well-being, both mental and physical, is of paramount importance because it impacts everything else in your life. It is the fundamental basis of everything that your life is based on. And so, especially if there's something that happens in your time, God forbid, hopefully not, but if something were to happen in your time here at the university, having those contacts and knowing where to reach out if something does happen in an emergency is a very, very important resource to have on hand. And we're going to go over them right now. For safety, there's uh, many different resources to reach out to, but largely the urgency of the issue that you're dealing with, how urgent and how serious the issue that you're dealing with will determine what department and which resource you reach out to. If you are ever facing immediate danger or something is happening to your friend and they are in immediate, serious, grave danger, always call 911. Do not hesitate. Police and first responders, their entire job is to assist people in those emergency conditions. So if anything serious is to happen, be sure to reach out to 911. You can reach out to 911, or if you want to call the UW Police Department specifically, this is the UW PD number. Although this number is for non-emergencies. Say for emergency issues, always call 911. But say for non-emergency issues, say if you want to report something, you can call UW PD. If you don't want something resolved like on the spot, you're in grave danger and it's relatively non-urgent, you can call this UW PD number right here. For other issues, say you have interpersonal conflicts with your roommates, or there are other conflicts with professors, so on and so forth, or you are afraid that you're being harassed, or you're dealing with a situation with another person that you're not sure quite how to navigate. Safe Campus is a wonderful resource. They are trained professionals who've seen many cases about student conflicts, about student life issues, so on and so forth. And so if you're unsure about how to navigate that situation, Safe Campus is a wonderful resource to reach out to by email and by phone. And then, especially if you live on campus, say you live in a dorm and it's after 5 p.m., you can call the HFS RA on call. And so they are there to assist you in all of the above manners. Say you live in a dorm and your toilet gets clogged late at night, or you want to file a noise complaint because you're trying to get sleep and a lot of people are being noisy in the hallways and you don't want to confront them yourself. You can call the RA on duty. They are there to make your university life, especially if you live on campus, much smoother. That is their entire role. And so don't hesitate to reach out to the RA on duty. When you call this number, you'll be referred to a phone tree, and then from there you can select your specific residence hall. And then if you're going home late at night and you don't feel safe walking alone by yourself, or you're not sure how to get home, there's a few options that UW offers. So one is the UW Night Ride. And so you can think of them kind of like a bus, but better in the sense that they're a bus in the sense that they have different stops in the overall campus area that you can be picked up from, but they are better in the sense that instead of going to a specific bus stop, they can actually take you to your exact intersection. So say if you live on West Campus, they will drive to West Campus directly. If you live somewhere off campus within a certain radius of the university, say you live a few streets away from campus, but you don't feel safe getting home, walking home at night, they will actually take you to your intersection, so as close as you can get. And so they are a wonderful resource to use at night when you want to go home. There's also UW Nightwalk. If you're in and around campus, you can actually call a police officer who will show up and walk you home or to a safe location. And then finally, if you receive an email and you're not sure if it's a scam, well, first off, if you think it might be a scam, don't click on any of the links in that email, first and foremost. But if you think it might be a scam and you're not sure, you can send it to help@uw.edu. They are trained IT professionals who have a great eye and lots of experience for these kinds of scam emails. And so they can tell you whether or not it is a scam. And in the case that it is a scam, you are not just helping yourself, you are helping the overall UW campus community. Because once UW IT identifies the scam or identifies a certain email address as a scam email address, they can block it from the overall UW mailing system to better protect the overall UW community. And so be sure, if at any point in the future you receive a very suspicious looking email and you're not sure, one, you can always double check with UW-IT through help@uw.edu. In addition, you will also be helping your fellow students and staff by better protecting the UW community in a virtual manner. Next, moving on to healthcare. And so here we have many different contacts listed, and all of these contacts represent different types of care that you can receive here in the United States. And so, for instance, again, if you are ever in a life-threatening emergency, or you're afflicted by some illness that needs immediate help, always dial 911. That's how you receive emergency care. And so don't hesitate in those life-threatening situations. If your concerns are not quite as urgent, there are other options. You can also receive urgent care, which is like emergency room, but less expensive and for less life-threatening conditions. That is also an option that is available to you. And then finally, this is for general doctor concerns, general illness, so on and so forth. You can also receive what is called primary care through a primary care doctor. And so, generally speaking, if you go to Hull Health with some health concern, you will be referred to a primary care doctor. This is the process in America. Say you have a specific injury or a specific illness that you're dealing with. You can't directly see a specialist. Generally, specialist doctors, say you sprained your ankle really badly or you broke your leg or something like that, right? The general care doctor, the primary care doctor, might not have all the expertise needed to heal your injury, but they're definitely specialist doctors who can do so. However, in America, if you reach out to the specialist doctor directly, generally, these doctors have very long wait times that can last months. So it might take months before you can get your first appointment. And so by that time, your injury might have gotten much worse or might have healed improperly. And so, on the other hand, if you go through a primary care doctor first, so you see a primary care doctor through Hull Health, for instance, or through the Husky Health Center, and then they internally refer you to a specialty doctor, to a specialty care doctor, that wait time will generally be much, much shorter. You'll be able to get an appointment much faster compared to if you were to reach out to a specialty doctor on your own terms. And so that's one of the reasons that that primary care doctors are very, very important. Especially if you have a recurring condition, if you know you already have some pre-existing mental or a pre-existing overall health condition, having that relationship with a primary care doctor can be very, very important and beneficial in the long run. Sometimes doctors are less willing to take on new patients. If you think about it from the doctor's perspective, they want to save their time slots for patients they already have a pre-established relationship with, or patients who they know really need their services. And so if you build that relationship with that doctor over time, potentially, hypothetically, let's say you experience some medical emergency, but it's not life-threatening to require emergency room and not urgent enough to require urgent care in the on the this happens at night, right? The next day, you can reach out to the primary care doctor that you've built a relationship with and reach out to them to see if they have availability for that day. If you're some stranger, they might not be willing to make that appointment for you. But if they already know you and know the nature of your condition, having that point of contact can be very, very beneficial. We also have a few other points of contact here on this page. And so if you want to reach out or you have any questions regarding your health insurance for all international students, the iShip office contact is here, this email address. And then if you want to receive mental health support, we have a counseling center right on campus, and you can reach out to them at this phone number. Also through Circle, we'll talk a little bit about this later as well. We have a student success and well-being coach. We'll talk more about her later, but her name is Maya, and she is a wonderful, wonderful resource to address all types of student concerns. Okay, moving on to academic support. The University of Washington provides a wide range of academic resources available to all students. And so, first and foremost, I want to talk about the Clue Tutoring Center. This is one of the most powerful resources, academically speaking, related to the international first year experience and the first year student experience in general. What Clue is it's a free tutoring center that happens every single week. In this case, their hours are Sunday through Thursday, from 7:30 to 11 p.m. And they have free tutors on hand to explain homework or concepts from all of the above subjects, especially for introductory series classes. And so all of these tutors are students who've done well in those classes and have been trained to pass on that information to you. And so it's a wonderful resource to explore. I definitely remember when I was a freshman, there would be nights where I would just be there multiple nights a week, studying and doing my homework. And it was just so much more effective than trying to bash my head into the page to try to figure it out no matter what. Rather, having someone there as a resource to help me guide my thinking, to help explain any concepts that I didn't know, made my life so much more easy and made my life so much easier and made my overall studying process so much more productive. And well, through the student activities fee, this is already paid for through your tuition. So you've already paid for this service. But on the other hand, you don't have to think about it in the sense that reaching out for help is a sign of weakness. It's very much normal to take full advantage of all of the resources that are available to you as a student here. Rather than trying to tough it out yourself, reaching out for help is one of the best things you can do to help yourself. Use all of the resources that are available to you and work smarter, not harder. Another wonderful thing about Clue is that for specific subjects, say there's a popular class like Biology 200 and there's a big exam coming up, the Clue tutors will actually hold a specific exam study session for that exam. And so that's a wonderful resource as well to provide you a targeted session to study for that specific test. And Clue is overall a wonderful resource, especially for first year students. In addition, if you need help with writing, so English composition, any kind of writing, English 131, 121, 111, so on and so forth. If you need help for writing, Clue has a drop-in writing session built into Clue. And keep in mind though, for the Clue Writing Center, you can't make appointments. And so everything is drop-in based. And so if you want writing help from the Clue Writing Center, you will do try to show up early because a line can form. And if you want to get your help in a timely manner, be sure to show up on time. In addition, if you want another resource for writing, the Odegaard Writing and Research Center is a wonderful resource to explore. This one, there's no drop-in. You can only make appointments, but you can only make appointments 2 weeks into the future. You can't just book appointments for the whole quarter. You can only make appointments 2 weeks into the future. But they are a wonderful resource as well. And unlike drop-in, where you're not sure if you'll make it in time, or you're not sure um, if perhaps the line will be too long and you won't be able to get in, having that appointment is a sure guarantee that you will receive the help you need. And then each department also has its own tutoring centers. And so there's a math study center, there's one for economics, one for chemistry. Overall, there's one for physics, there's one for essentially any department. And here we can click on this link right now. And this one's for chemistry. And then this is the general one. There's really so many that the UW offers. Essentially, every department has their own. There's one for biology, there's again chemistry, there's one specifically for engineering students, there's the instructional center. So this one is for students who are minorities, and effectively most international students are. And so they're a wonderful resource to explore as well. There's ones for philosophy. Again, here's the Ode Writing Center, so on and so forth. There's a Foster one somewhere in here. There's an honors one. There essentially every department has their own tutoring and study center. And so overall, there's so many academic resources on campus, and familiarizing yourself with them and taking full advantage of them can help you so far in your path to student success here at the University of Washington. There's also another resource that I want to make available to you, and that is the student success coaching. And so this one is a more general success coaching if you look at their website. They offer So these are student coaches. And so they are students who've been through their experience here at the University of Washington. They have lots of resources about how to set goals, about how to effectively study, so on and so forth. They are trained specifically to provide this resource to incoming students. And so they are a wonderful resource as well. And then next, I want to talk about Maya. And so earlier, I mentioned her name, and she is one of the staff here in our Circle office. And she is a wonderful resource. She is a licensed counselor from Europe, and she's worked in China for more than 10 years. And so she is a great handle on the international student experience and has dealt with a lot of the concerns that international students face. And so, not just academic support, but she can support international students when they encounter issues with loneliness or lack of motivation, or how to write an email if they feel like they're being treated unfairly, or they have issues of self-doubt, or they want to explore their sexuality, so on and so forth. Maya is kind of just a catch-all. She is able to respond to any of your questions and is very a generalized student success and well-being coach, and offering that kind of support. And so she is a wonderful resource to explore. If you're interested, you can follow this link on the page right here. Okay. That concludes our core session 3. In summary, today we talked about how to email your professors, how choosing your words and coming off in a professional manner, introducing yourself, and make it clear what you're trying to ask the professor for is a wonderful way to get what you need in order to achieve to get what you need in order to succeed here at the UW. Whether that's asking for an ad code to get into a class that's currently full, or reaching out for research opportunities, or getting accommodations if you are in need of those, so on and so forth. Knowing how to correctly formulate an email and write an email to communicate with your professor is a powerful skill to have in your tool set. And we have templates in the slide deck. In addition, in the slide deck, we have many different contacts for the different offices on campus. And so whether that's the administrative offices, so ISS, international admissions, so on and so forth, or health and safety offices related to UW PD or Husky Health Center, so on and so forth. All of those resources are great to keep in the back of your head for when you need them. And then finally, academic support at the UW. And so always, if these resources are available to you, do take full advantage of them because they're there to help you. And they've proven to be highly beneficial to students, especially first year students, in their time here at the UW. Again, if you have any further questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us too. Overall, the message that we want to convey is that your initiative, again, your initiative and your willingness to reach out and seek out the resources that will most benefit you are one of the greatest determinants for how great your Husky experience can be. Do join us thank you for joining our core session number 3. Do join us next week for core 4.